Well, staying with this story, Rami Khouri joins us now from Boston, Massachusetts. He's a public policy fellow at the American University of Beirut. Rami, we appreciate your time and your expertise here on TRT World. As we've been hearing from our two correspondents, Israel is continuing its offensive in earnest against Hezbollah. It uses its right to self-defense to justify its actions against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Do you think that argument still stands when you consider the large number of civilian casualties we're hearing about today?
Well, that argument still stands among many people in the West who don't know all the details of what life and events are in the Middle East, but it doesn't carry much weight with people who really understand what the situation is here and the background to this conflict. But that's kind of irrelevant because Israel has shown clearly that it'll do whatever it wants to do. It will carry out any kind of attacks. It will expel people. It'll bomb civilian areas, hospitals, ambulances. It doesn't pay attention anymore to international law or basic norms of civilized life. And this is one of the great dilemmas that the Western world, with its massive support for Israel, initially for a reasonable goal to allow Jews to live in a normal life. But that has turned Israel into a killing machine. And Israel is now doing in Gaza what it wants, in the West Bank, in Lebanon. In fact, you can see what Israel is doing in Lebanon now is a follow-up to what it learned to do in Gaza, which is to humiliate huge numbers of people, millions, push them around like cattle, and then bomb them when they're vulnerable. And now they're probably going to be doing something similar in Lebanon. Already they've told people to move, to get out of their homes. And so this is a real dilemma for the whole world.
It's interesting that you say that this could be what we're going to be seeing now in Lebanon, because we've heard in the last hour the Israel army chief, the military chief, saying that they are going to keep their pressure up on Hezbollah. They're not going to let Hezbollah catch a break. What do you think that will look like? I mean, we had more than 500 people die in 24 hours. When Israel says they're going to escalate their offensive, what will that look like?
Oh, it could be many things. It could be more aerial strikes. It could be hitting civilian infrastructure in Lebanon, roads, airport, bridges, etc., electricities, making life just extremely difficult for ordinary people in Lebanon. I don't imagine a big ground operation is going to happen, maybe a limited one along the border. And it could include more electronic warfare, digital warfare. There's many possibilities that Israel could choose from. The dilemma for Israel is that it has overwhelming power, which it has used for the last 20, 25, 30 years. In the last year, Israel has carried out 7,400 attacks in Lebanon. That's a huge number of attacks, and it's raised that number now. But this hasn't worked. It hasn't brought it the kind of security it seeks. And it hasn't brought it any kind of surrender from the people who are resisting it, whether Palestinians or Lebanese or Yemenis or Iraqis, whoever they may be. So the world talks about toning it down, ceasefire, but we've had ceasefires for years and years, and Israel just kept being aggressive and attacking Lebanon and Palestine and the West Bank. And so there has to be a radical change in how the people in the region and the world approach this conflict to try to resolve it at the roots of the political tensions between Palestine and Israel. Remember, this started with Palestine. Hezbollah got involved because initially it defended Lebanon in the 80s, but now it is involved because of Gaza. So ending the Gaza onslaught is the first thing to be done, and then we can explore others.
Casting our eye across the border into northern Israel, what kind of retaliation or response would you expect to see from Hezbollah on Israel? And do you think that Hezbollah would now consider somewhere like Tel Aviv to be a legitimate target?
Oh, they probably would once the Israelis start attacking Beirut, which they have, and they'll do more of that probably. Hezbollah very well might. It's already expanded the range of its rocket attacks to Haifa, northern Israel, and then south of Haifa. So that's very possible. One of the big things we will find out in the next week, I would imagine, is what are Hezbollah's actual capabilities. We know that Israel has huge technological advances over the Hezbollah and the Arab forces, but we don't know exactly what Hezbollah can do. It started firing more advanced rockets, the Fadi-1 and the Fadi-2, they call it. So we'll have to see if Hezbollah can match Israel's attacks or not. If it can't, and Hezbollah seems on the verge of being checked or defeated even, then we might see Iran and others stepping in to relieve the pressure on it. This is the real danger. But the use of military might by Israel and Hezbollah's response is only a stopgap measure. It cannot bring full calm and peace and normal life either to the Israelis or to the Lebanese, and the same applied to the Palestinians. This is the great dilemma. Everybody has to figure out how to do this, and hopefully they're doing that at the UN General Assembly meetings this week, trying to go deeper than just ceasefire.
Indeed, and we will, of course, be bringing our audience all the updates from the UN General Assembly as that progresses as well. Rami Khouri, thank you so much for your time here on the NewsHour.
You bet.